Now, as the world leaders meet to address climate change issues and also to revive the economy post the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent shutdowns, protests are taking place across the world, where people are demanding that the political leaders should in fact fulfill their promises of addressing climate change head-on. Demonstrations were held by a civic movement where they performed a parody version of the popular song Money, Money, Money. All right, shows the climate money is what the people have to say to the political leaders. This protest was, of course, staged in front of the Colosseum in Rome. It was to remind the rich nations to fulfill their promise of putting aside at least about $100 billion American dollars annually to support the developing nations in the fight against climate change by adopting greener technologies.
So here in Rome we were looking is what is going to be the key message for world leaders that has been accused to say blah blah blah, and we say, well, this is the moment for actually doing. It's the time for money, money, money. It's the time for especially 5 nations, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada and Italy, to fulfill their promises. They have promised that they will actually do their fair share in looking for this floor of $100 billion per year to assist poor nations in their fight, in their tackle for climate change. That didn't happen.
Now, the song was performed in front of cutouts of world leaders, including the American President Joe Biden and also the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
And what we are looking today is to call on those nations to fulfill those promises in order just to build economies that work for the people and the planet. And the G20 is the forum in which the most powerful nations on earth has just to send a strong signals ahead of the climate conference in Glasgow that the moment for financing climate action is now. And that's what we are doing here in Rome, calling for a Pax Climatica at the back of the Colosseum with a performance that looks nice and looks funny, but it's actually a very serious issue. It's an issue about how are we going to put nations back in their feet to develop a new way of economies that doesn't harm our future.
The climate campaigners in Germany's financial capital Frankfurt also painted a very large mural calling for big finance to defund from fossil fuels.
Today is the Global Action Day against fossil finance. And here in Frankfurt, in the financial center, we are painting a big street mural saying, "Stop funding fossil fuel." This is directed to the big financial players, but especially the European Central Bank.
Now, the United Nations Development Programme had released a research that showed that the world in fact spends a whopping $423 billion American dollars per year to subsidize fossil fuel for consumers. The amount could, of course, cover the cost of COVID-19 vaccinations for every person in the world. It is 3 times the annual amount that is needed to eradicate global extreme poverty. Meanwhile, Scotland has urged the protesters to be very considerate in holding protests across the countries. The country is now only slowly opening up to the world.
I would ask that people demonstrating remember and show consideration for the city and for people living in this city. The people of Glasgow are opening up their city to the world at what is a difficult time for everybody around the world, and I hope those who are travelling here to the city, welcome though they are, to make their voices heard, will recognise that.
The nations will report on the status of keeping the global temperature rise at about 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial levels as per the Paris Climate Accord. Now, climate activists are also expected to stage several protests during the summit. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.